Previously, BlackRock has applied for 575 ETFs. Only one was ever not approved. So the chances of a Bitcoin ETF approval are obviously extremely high. But does the approval matter as much as the anticipation and as much as people are making out? And also we discussed the parallels with spot gold ETFs and how that changed the whole entire gold price and market 20 years ago. I'm going to then get on a chart and discuss price predictions for Bitcoin in the short term. If you've been following everything with the Bitcoin ETF, especially on Twitter, we've seen loads and loads of updates. A lot of people are saying there may be a decision as early as this week. Grayscale are filing amendments to their spot Bitcoin ETF, as you can see here. This is usually a good sign. It means we're on the way towards approval. And as I mentioned in the intro there, I don't think there's any doubt that it will be approved. The question is when, and the question is what will happen to the Bitcoin price during that period whilst we're waiting for that particular approval. I wanted to share this chart with you. This is a chart of the gold price over the last kind of 30 years. What's interesting about this, you can see they're marked with the gold dot and the red dot, is when gold's ETF was first approved, gold prices weren't really doing much. But since that approval, they have exploded. It's gone up roughly 4x over a long period of time, of course. This is over 15 or 20 years. But you can clearly see on the chart what happened to the underlying kind of gold ETF prices. Now, could this happen with Bitcoin? A lot of people are making that comparison, and that's understandable. The problem, however, is the time frame. One thing you have to understand is approval is one thing, but then actually getting all of the ETFs up live and working is another thing. And that can happen days, weeks, or more than likely months afterwards. So you won't get the institutional kind of money flow into these Bitcoin ETFs and potentially other altcoin ETFs for a while yet. So keep that in mind as well. It's not as if everything's going to be approved and then suddenly there's going to be trillions flowing into the market. That will come later. However, there may be a good bit of inflow just on approval because people are bullish about the eventual ETF. Now, what does this mean for the Bitcoin price? Now, I shared in a recent video how I thought Bitcoin would pull back first, possibly dip below 40 before running on anticipation of the ETF, but it appears we're even more bullish than that. However, I've marked two levels here, and the reason I marked these, one is 45772, one is 46428, and I marked them with a red line here, these two red lines. The reason I marked those is because if the structure that we've seen since 5th of December, if this is all corrective, which it looks like, and then it continues to form an expanded flat, then what we would expect to see is a pullback from these prices and then further correction downwards. So I'm watching very carefully. We've bounced off that first level. So basically, how would that look? Let's zoom out to a 4 hours to give you a better idea. It's basically a corrective pattern. So we get one leg down and then 3 waves back up and then another leg down. And this can either finish at the 618 or it can go a lot deeper as well. I don't know if this is what's happening. That's why I'm watching these two levels very carefully, because we rebounded, but we can easily push through and then we could challenge the next level. But if we push through both of these, then I think things are very, very bullish. And then very likely the actual correction was smaller and we never explored the swing lows there. And it was just a smaller running kind of flat correction and we've now started a new leg upwards, which is quite possible as well. Now, the important thing with the Bitcoin ETF is the anticipation. People are saying we may get approval this week. Yeah, perhaps. But actually, BlackRock and these other companies, they have a lot longer. They actually have all the way up until March. So what's good about that is this period of 3 months, if things don't get approved immediately and things keep running, then potentially the price, the anticipation, that can keep running as well for a good period of time. In 3 months, crypto can move a massive amount. And let me show you something else. When did actual Bitcoin ETF mania begin? It was actually a long time ago now. So let's get onto a daily chart. It was actually as early as around here, around when we were 25,000. That's when people started talking about it. So just the anticipation of an ETF has moved us likely all of this way. I mean, there's obviously other reasons as well, but that's one of the big reasons. That's why I think if it's delayed, it's actually better for crypto and more bullish if it gets delayed until March. That gives us more room. Yeah, we may have a correction now, but then we can keep pushing up. And it can get ridiculous. Like, not only could we start approaching all-time highs, which are not a million miles away now at for 65,000, we actually push up to 100,000 just on anticipation alone. That's how strong the narrative can be. Because remember, this is all mass psychology. What's the only hurdle I see? The hurdles along the way, if everything is about the Bitcoin ETF and is mass psychology at work, the hurdles are if we agree, like, well, a lot of people agree, including me at the beginning, 575 ETFs approved. Like, it's going to get approved. And the other reason for that, it's not just the US now. Look at Hong Kong. They're leading the way now in terms of Bitcoin ETF approval as well. That process has begun there. And then it's probably going to end up in other countries. So, we should be in agreement that it's definitely going to happen. It's just a question of when. So if we know it's going to happen and it's a question of when, what could be the setback? The setback could be along the way of this little drama we have with the SEC, there's a knockback. Just a normal knockback is just something's missing in the application and it's not sounding too good anymore. And obviously we know that's all rubbish and it's definitely going to happen. If there's a knockback from the SEC, what's the market going to do? The market is just asking for a reason to pull back because everything's been so bullish recently. It's asking for a little 20-30% correction, a little haircut. So if we get any knockbacks, for example, let's say we get a knockback this week, then yeah, expect everything to kind of pull back some, for sure. But then I think any pullbacks now in crypto in general are to be bought, to be honest with you, because the trend's obviously very clearly shifted now, not only in Bitcoin, but all of the altcoins as well. So that's what I think. I think any pullbacks will be literally any kind of semi-bad temporary news about the application and the process. But if it can linger till March, that's a lot better. I'd rather that than suddenly we get an approval right now and we have to kind of sit with that news and deal with it. Because like I said, there's a delay before you get those institutional money flows into cryptocurrency anyway, which could be a few months. So how do you actually trade this? Well, for me, it's quite simple. Watch these areas very carefully just to see whether this is part of a larger correction. If we clear here, then it's very obvious that the new leg up began right here on 29th of December at around the 41,000 level. That was the low and we're moving up for a new leg. And if we're moving up for a new leg, then you expect it to be impulsive. So there'll be pullbacks along the way, probably just a bit of bad news about SEC, and then we carry on going. But if Bitcoin is going up for a next leg, then this is very, very bullish for altcoins. So expect many multiples, 5x's, 10x's from all of them, whilst we move towards probably a date in February or March instead for the approval. Now, if we get an approval, you have to fit it in with this chart pattern. Is it all part of a correction? Is there going to be a smaller sell the news, quick pullback, and then we go? It's actually better if we get it out the way anyway, so we can continue our move forward. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for listening.